right click and pin it to the taskbar or even to the start menu, and you should see it here, and next time you don't have to look for it, and you can just double click on it to open it, to open the workbench. Usually it takes a few seconds for it to open. Once it opens, you can either log in to your SQL Server, or you can just click on the diagram. That's if you are building an ERD and you are not linking it to a specific database. So click on the plus and to add a new diagram. You can add the new diagram from here. You can also go to File, New Model. And if you double click on a new diagram, it should open the user interface that can allow you to add entities and relationships. An entity, another word is a table, but really table is when we get to the physical design. But in the logical conceptual design is called an entity. So that's why it's called an ERD, which stands for Entity Relationship Diagram. Click once here, click once in the space, the empty space, and that's for table 1. Then you click again for table 2. Now if you try to build a relationship, and those, if you are asking why some of them they have those dots, others they don't, this is undentifying versus non-undentifying, or non-undentifying is the dotted one and undentifying is the continued one. I'm not going to explain the difference now, that will be in a different video. But if I were to build a relationship now, as you can see, it's not gonna do so. That's because those tables, they don't have any key, they don't have any attributes. The attributes what describe the entity. You know, like for example, a student will have a student ID, describes the student table, and then you have a student name, first name, last name, address, etc. So those are called attributes. So we need to add an attribute, and we need to add a unique one, which is the primary key. It's called the primary keys because it has to be unique, it has to be not null. An example of that will be your student ID, because your name is not unique, your first name is not unique, your last name is not unique, but your ID is unique, just like your social security, etc. So if I double click on a table, I can change the name from table 1. I'm gonna call it students, right? Or students, and then under the column name I can type a name if I want to, or I can leave the default one, which is ID students, and I can make this one a primary key. Okay, and as you can see, this one is going to be an integer. That's if your ID doesn't have any characters in it. This one here, I can close this one if I want to. Just leave it and double click on table 2, and that will change it to table 2. And then I can click on table 2, I'm sorry, and then I can call this one courses. And then under the column name, again, I can change the name, or I can leave the default, which is ID courses, and I can make this one primary, not null. Okay, and the primary key again has to be unique, it cannot be null, cannot repeat in the table. And I can close this one. Now I should be able to add a relationship, because I have indexes, and that's the primary key. Now you will notice that as soon as I add relationship, then I'm gonna have a foreign key there as well, and the foreign key is a common key between the two tables that will allow us to build that relationship between those two tables. So if we are talking about, let's say for example, for the sake of this example, you know, in real world maybe doesn't make a lot of sense, but if we were looking at the data in a month scope, meaning, like for example, this is a private college where a student can take only one course per month. So we are not looking at historical data. If we are looking at historical data, students can take many courses, courses can be taken by many students, and that will be a many-to-many relationship. But in this example, if we are, for example, private college, and it's a month-to-month term, if we can call it that way, and a student can only take one course per session or per term, if a month can be called term in this instance, then we have courses can be taken by many students, but student can take only one course. So that will be a one too many, but the many is going to be on the student's side, right? So we're going to click on this one, and we're always going to start with the many side. So we said a course can be taken by many students. Say a course can be taken by many students, and notice that I start with the many side first. which is the students, but a student can only take one course per session per term. Okay, so that's one too many. Okay, this is a quick example on how to build two tables and relationship between those two tables. Notice that you have a foreign key here, which is courses, a common key, a common field between the courses and the students table, and it's right here. This is the foreign key, and those two are primary keys, the one with the foreign key, and that's basically how you build relationship between two entities. Those are attributes. This is the entity, which is the table, an entity, another entity, and then those are the attributes. If I were to add more attributes, I can always do that. For example, in the students table, I can add the student first name, student last name, but in this case, they will not be primary keys. This is not a primary key on this one. And then if I change it, then it becomes a non-identifying. That's another topic that we're gonna talk about in future videos. Thank you for watching.